Well, howdy YouTube! Unky Joe here, Unky Joe's Playhouse. Today, what if I told you I could get you a PC, a thin client PC, running Windows 10 and playing high-def video for under $100? Would you be interested in something like that? Well, I hope so, because that's what this video is about today. So, buckle up, Buttercup. Let's get it started right now. So what, you don't believe what I'm saying? Well, proof's in the pudding. Look right behind my big yellow head. That's it right there. It's actually, you can see it right there on the bench. It's up and running, and it's currently playing a video through MB Theater. And I'm going to tell you what I like about it, what I don't like about it. It's going to be an honest review, and we're going to cover some of the technical aspects of it. So first of all, let me tell you how I set up my testing. I've got 3 of these HP T610 thin client units here, and I'll put the specs up here as I get into the video. But basically, they got a dual core or a dual CPU processor, an AMD processor, and they got 4 gig RAM. They have a dedicated AMD Radeon. Well, it's on the chip Radeon video controller or video card. I think it uses 256 mega RAM. Anyway, you'll see the specs. So it's not a very high-powered machine by any standard, and these units are old. I picked these up off of eBay. I got 3 of them because I got a deal on them for about $30 a piece, with 4 gig of RAM and a 16 gig, 16 gigabyte internal SD card in them, that kind of thing. So I wondered how they would stand up. I've run Linux on these machines, and I wasn't, it was so-so. And I thought, well, how would they stand up to Windows 10? Because the main reason I'm so fond of these little thin clients is, for one thing, is they're upgradable to a certain amount, but they're kind of powerful for as small as they are, and they have USB 3 ports on them. So that's something you don't see on a lot of old PC or older hardware. And so I wanted to take advantage of that. So I said, what the heck? Let's throw a spinning hard drive in there, and let's try to put Windows 10 on there. And let's see how it works, how it functions. So that's exactly what I did. I took one of the units and I put a spinning 500 gig, 2.5-inch hard drive out of an old, I think it was a laptop, or it was out of my new laptop that I put an SSD in. So I wanted to make use of that drive, and it's perfect for these thin clients. The only problem is I don't have a mounting bracket for the hard drive, so it just kind of plugs into the serial ATA connector, power connector on the board, and kind of hangs there. So I took a little housing for an SD card, a little plastic one, and taped to the bottom of the hard drive, so that when the unit is laying flat, it lays flat, but it doesn't have the possibility of shorting out by touching the motherboard. So it worked out for me. And then in the other unit, I installed a 250 gig SanDisk Ultra 2 hard drive in there, or SSD drive in there, to see if I would get any better performance with the hard drive, spinning hard drive, versus the SD or SSD drive. So I'm going to share with you the results of that right now. So let's go take a look. Well, here is the specy information sheet on these T610 thin clients. So as you can see, it's running Windows 10 Pro 64-bit. It's an AMD G-T610, 40 nanometers Akate processor, 4 gig of DDR3 RAM, running at 671 megahertz. The motherboard is a HP 17E2. The graphics is, and I misspoke, I thought it was only 256 mega RAM. It's actually 384 meg of dedicated RAM. For the onboard AMD Radeon 6320, and the storage on this unit that we're looking at right now is a Toshiba spinning hard drive, 465 gig. So let's go a little deeper into specy, and you'll see that it is has 2 cores, 2 threads on the CPU. It is the AMD G-T5610 processor. And you can see the cache size down there. It doesn't have a lot of cache. Not a real powerful processor, but it gets the job done. And then here is the information on the graphics. Radeon HD 6320, nothing to write home about. And then the Toshiba spinning hard drive. So those are the specs through Speccy. Now, what I want you to see is the Crystal Dismark. This is with the spinning internal hard drive. So as you can see, the read and write speeds are not great on that spinning hard drive, and the 4K sequential reads and writes are abysmal, as you will see. But you know, it's a spinning hard drive. What can I say? It's also limited to serial ATA2 speeds on this motherboard. That's the fastest that it supports, I believe. And what's odd, you can see those are the C drive results. Let me go ahead and resize the window because I want to show you something else here. So let's go ahead and get this up. I want to compare it to you. I also did a drive speed test with the Synology NAS hooked up to this thing. We get these windows up here. So as you can see, this is the spinning hard drive compared to the read-write speeds on the network drive, the Synology NAS drive. So even though I've got an internal spinning hard drive in that thin client, I get better reads and write speeds through the network than I do with the spinning hard drive. So just for shits and giggles, I ran Cinebench on it. As you can see, the results were pretty abysmal. I get 7.23 frames per second and 51 CBs on the Cinebench test. This is the unit with the spinning hard drive. So yeah, abysmal. You won't be gaming on this thing. And as you will see as we move on, we're barely able to play high-def videos like under Google Chrome. Now here's where things changed a bit. This is the unit that has the SSD drive in there. And as you can see on the far left screen, the the Crystal Dismark results were quite a bit better than they were with the spinning hard drive. In the middle is a result of the transfer test across the network. I was getting anywhere from about 90 megabytes on downward. It did hit 100 a couple of times, but the average speed was about 85 megabytes per second, so not bad on the file transfer speeds. And then of course I did a Crystal Dismark with the SSD unit against the Synology NAS, and as you can see, we lost quite a bit of speed reading and writing. But on the 4K on the Synology, the Q32T1 were actually better than they were with the SSD drive. And I think that's a limitation of the serial ATA controller on that T610 thin client. But you know, there you go. The reviews are in, and these are the results we got on testing of the physical drive versus the Synology. So as you can see by the results of the tests that I run, and these are totally unscientific tests. These are just tests I ran. Dismark, I ran the Cinebench program, and I ran Crystal Dismark on them, and the performance wasn't stellar by any means. In fact, if you noticed on the Dismark test, or the Crystal Dismark test, the spinning hard drive performed worse in that T610 or T510 thin client. I think I misspoke all along. I think it's a T610, not a 510. So it's funny because the results were better on the network speed test than they were on the local hard drive. I don't know what that's all about. It's only a serial ATA 2 interface, not a 3, so it's limited to 3 gigabits per second, but it worked. You know, it's just it's funny that the network transfer speed was faster than the local hard drive. I just found that kind of silly. And then when you saw the results on the SSD drive, they blew the network transfer speeds out of the water. So my recommendation to you would be go with an SSD drive, just because you're not going to be sitting there waiting. I forgot how slow hard drives are. You know, when you boot up with your machine with a current SSD, it's 5, 10, 15 seconds tops. With these spinning hard drives, once it comes up and starts loading all the Windows 10 applications that run in the background, it can be a slow process. With the SSD, it came right up and logged in just as fast as my my AMD machine here that I'm filming this on. So you know, it has its good points, it has its bad points. So all things being equal, I would recommend an SSD drive in these units if that's what you're going to use them for. Now, RAM is not a limiting factor on these. In fact, I believe you can upgrade these to 16 gig of RAM. I would say that for the average user, 4 gig is going to be enough RAM. You could go with 8. You know, RAM is fairly inexpensive. I think these take SODIMMs in them, so laptop memory. It is DDR3, so you get that. But that is really not a limiting factor on these machines. You can pump as much RAM into them as you want. Not that you would necessarily do that. You have to determine if spending, you know, that might get you over the $100 threshold we've set for this build. So you have to keep that in mind. I would just run with the 4 gig of RAM that's in them. I mean, if you're going to do anything, I never maxed out the RAM on this, never got close to it. I probably used 2/3 of the RAM available when it was, you know, streaming a video or playing a YouTube video or something like that. So RAM is not real important on these, but like I said, it is upgradable. So there's that. What I think you'll find is that the limiting factor on these units is going to be the onboard video. And there's just no way around that. You saw our abysmal Cinebench scores. I think we were getting 9 frames per second on one and maybe 16 on the other. Now, if you have the 610 Plus model that's twice the thickness of this unit, they do have a PCI Express riser card in there. And you could actually put up, you know, if you size the card properly, you could put up, you know, a fairly modern day video card in there, and this thing would really kick some ass. But who's going to spend, you know, $150 to $200 on a video card to put in a thin client? Well, not me, you know. It's just not worth the investment. Now, if you could pick up a card used for between $30 and $50, you know, maybe a lower end GTX, like a 710, it would probably work just fine. And you would probably see a speed increase on web browsing. You know, Google's a pig, Google Chrome. And it needs CPU, and there's a bottleneck on the CPU on this, and then there's a bottleneck in the video. And that all tends to make Google Chrome run kind of slow on this machine. So I think if you had a better, you know, if you had the 610 Plus model and you had that PCI Express riser and you popped a better video card in there, I think you'd be happier. And that would still probably keep you under the maybe $120 range. That might be a good investment for you. And like I say, you know, these things are easy to get. They're all over eBay. So that being said, again, you're not going to be real happy with the Google Chrome performance. Especially, I mean, it's passable. Look, I'll put it to you this way. I could not handle running this unit. The unit that's running now has got a spinning hard drive in it. The one you see behind me, I believe it's playing Alien. I'm letting it run a test and get nice and warm. I couldn't use that as a daily driver. It's just too slow for me. It would frustrate me to no end. Now, the unit that I had tried it out with the SSD was plenty fast. It was very acceptable. But still, I thought I'd get an improvement running Google Chrome off of an SSD. I did see a small improvement, but I don't think your experience would be satisfying, to say the least. I streamed some 720p video on there. It kept up pretty well. I saw no tearing, no stuttering. But when I flipped up to 1080p, it was, you know, there was a lot of stuttering. I didn't see a lot of screen tearing, which is remarkable to me, but that could have been the bandwidth issue. But I was pegging out those CPUs, both of them in the 65% range, playing a 720p video, and a 1080p brought it up to 98% CPU usage. So the bottleneck on here is the video and the CPU on this unit. But I think it would do better, like I said, with an add-on video card if you could squeeze one in there. I don't care about 4K video. Don't give a damn. This thing is not ever going to play 4K video, and you're not going to be gaming on it. But overall, for a PC, you know, if you want a small form factor PC for a family member or something, shoot, this thing is great. And everything on it is supported by Windows 10 out of the box. So I had no trouble. I've got 1809 on there, Windows 10 Pro 1809, and all the updates since the 1809 update. and the thing runs just fine. It doesn't get too hot, nothing. But again, I think you're going to be a lot happier with an SSD drive than you are with a spinning hard drive. So without further ado, because I could talk all night, let's go on to the footage where I show you this unit in action so you can kind of see for yourself. Most of this is going to be handheld. Some of it I'll slap onto the tripod, so bear with me on the handheld. And keep in mind I'll be taking a picture of a monitor, so the video quality is not going to be that great, but it's passable. So here's the unit in all of its stunning glory. You've seen these before. They also come with a stand, so you can stand them up on their edge and tuck them away in a corner, or you can also VESA mount these to the back of a monitor, so they're really handy. The front of the unit has 2 USB ports, and these are USB 2 ports, and you have audio out and microphone in. You have a hard drive indicator and a power indicator, and then of course the standard HP logo. And then on the back of the unit, so we got some light on the subject. So up at the top we have a DVI output. We also have a DisplayPort adapter, I believe right below that. Gigabit Ethernet. There are 2 USB 2 ports, 2 USB 3 ports. There's a serial port. There's an old DIN style connector for keyboard and mouse, and of course the power connector, and it does use a transformer, a wall transformer. So that's a look at the unit in all of its glory, and this is a unit with the spinning hard drive in it. I'm going to try and get a close-up here of the task manager running, and hopefully my autofocus will decide to work. I'm currently running MB Media Player. They call it Electron as the name of the application, and I'm playing a standard definition video right now, and you see my CPU usage is it fluctuates between about 19 and 23%. It's consuming about 550 megabytes of memory, and the picture is good for standard definition. Now what I'm going to do next is I'm going to switch over to a high def video and see if it'll play it. Now this is through the MB Theater, and then I'll show you what it looks like through VLC. Now forgive the camera, it's off. The camera is level. The problem is the table I've got this monitor sitting on is not, so please forgive me. This is the MB Studio media interface, and I'm just using the cursor keys to go through, or the arrow keys to go through. You can also use the mouse. And you see it's fairly fluid. There's no stuttering or anything. Now what I want to do is go out and want to choose a high def video, so I'm going to go ahead and choose Guardians of the Galaxy. It's it's in 1080p, H.264, Dolby Digital DTS 5.1, and English subtitles. And I'm going to go ahead. I was playing that earlier, but I want you to see the actual interface in action on a low-end PC with a spinning hard drive. So I'm going to hit resume, and hopefully the video will start playing here shortly. Okay, and as you can see, I've got subtitles turned on as well. Now I can't show too much of this video, of course, but YouTube, this is fair use. So I'm going to switch over to the task manager, and then we're going to zoom in on the task manager so you can see how it does playing a high def video. So the standard definition video is playing between what I say 19 and 22. This one's a little bit higher. I'm not seeing any screen tearing. I'm not seeing any stuttering, nothing. So this Electron, I'm impressed because like I said, when I ran this through, when I ran Google on here, tried to play a high def video, it was I was getting quite a bit of stuttering and tearing with the spinning hard drive, but this MB Studio Electron media player they're using works really well, and it isn't quite as frugal, or it isn't quite as frugal with CPU as VLC is, as you'll see here in a minute. But this is more than passable, and like I say, I'm getting a great image, and you saw the MB interface was plenty speedy. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to my V drive on my home NAS, which is my video folder, and I'm going to go ahead and we'll play a standard definition video with VLC media player. I'm going to go ahead and take that to full screen, and then I'm going to bring up my task manager alongside of it so you can see it. And please, YouTube, this is fair use. get that logo off there before it gets me a copyright flag. But anyway, VLC Media Player, you'll see it's at about 8%. I can fast forward through the video just fine. Give you some of the shots of the video going through. It fast forwards, it rewinds, works very well. Now the next thing I want to do is go ahead and play a high def video. So we'll go over to my action adventure and we'll get Guardians of the Galaxy, one of my favorite movies. And I need to tell it to open it with VLC because it's going to try and open it with movies and TVs under Windows 10. And we'll make sure that the subtitles are turned on. We turn the volume down. We make sure the subtitles are on. And they are now. And let's go to some action scene here. Yeah, there's a good action scene. Here we go. So we'll go ahead and go here, and I'm going to bring up the task manager, and then we'll keep an eye on how it's doing playing a high def video over the network. The nice thing I like about the Windows 10 task manager now is they also show you your network throughput on the if you look on the far right hand side next to VLC, you'll see the throughput I'm getting on the network. So you'll see that it is actually direct playing a movie in high def across the network onto this thin client PC, and it's only using 12-13% CPU. I see no screen tearing, I see no stuttering, the colors look fantastic, the picture looks great, and I would say I'm very happy with the performance. I think you will be too. Alright, so now we're running Google Chrome, and as you can see, this is where things start to get a little tough. Let me switch to Task Manager in here. We'll see what it's doing. So yeah, I've got 99% of my CPU in use, and 90% of that is from Google Chrome. And all I've done is bring up my YouTube page, my start page. So yeah, I think we need to, now it's settled down. Google Chrome has now settled down to 2.4%, but I thought that was, now it's back up to 52. So God only knows. You know, Google Chrome has gotten as bad as Windows 10. It's become an application unto itself, and but I digress. Let's go ahead and let's see if we can't find something to play. We'll do this one. I love Ancient Architects. Love their channel. If you ever have a chance, go and check him out. This guy is great. So if you don't mind, Mr. Ancient Architects guy, I'm going to use your video as a demo to show people how abysmal the performance is. Now let's just make sure, see what this is playing. You see the screen isn't even refreshing. And CPU usage 83%. Now this is on the unit with the spinning hard drive. The one with the SSD drive did much better. And this is only playing at 720p, as you can see here. So I'm just going to let this kind of go here so you can see how long it actually takes to update the page. And it actually stops playing the video while it's updating the page. So yeah. And that has somewhat to do with the hard drive throughput, and a lot to do with the CPU and the video on this system. It is playable, but I wish I still had the SSD unit set up to show you how much faster it is. But you still have a little lag, but nothing like you see here. Now I'm going to go ahead and take this video to full screen to give you an idea of, it's not real snappy in a web browser, just not. Let me bring up Task Manager, and yeah, it's at least it's better. It's down to about 50% CPU usage, so no worries there, huh? But let's go ahead and tell this thing to play the video in 1080p and see if we can't get this thing to go off the rails. So 1080p HD, it's going to get the new video coming up, and I'm going to go ahead and add to the kerfuffle, and I'm going to turn on stats for nerds so you can see that on the screen as well. And actually it's doing better than I thought. I don't see any stuttering. We'll see if we see any screen tearing here. And I'm not going to play this whole video, but we've gone from 50 to about 92%. And yeah, there's some stuttering there. You saw it's dropping some frames. It's dropped like 200 out of 800 frames. So yeah, 1080p, nah, I don't think it's going to work with Chrome and this video card setup. It works a bit better. I think the CPU usage goes down to about 80% with an SSD drive. So it offloads some of that swapping, I guess, to the SSD. But yeah, not a great experience in 1080p on YouTube. But Netflix works just fine. I'm going to go ahead and bring it down to 720p, and then I'm going to go ahead and fast forward this video a bit and see if our drop frames get any better. Not much. So I've dropped 8 out of 228 frames, 13 drop frames. It's not doing as bad as it was with 1080p, and you can see our CPU usage has come down to about 50 to 65%, somewhere right around there. So here we are, just back idling at the desktop. So you can see it's not too bad, and it does go to sleep after a few minutes, and it wakes up just fine. I haven't had any trouble restarting it. Again, I wish I had an spare SSD around here to install in this and show you the little bit better performance, but maybe we'll save that for another episode. We'll get an SSD in here, pop it in there, and then I can do another demo. But not too shabby for considering what these little thin client machines are. And as you can see here, it is an AMD G-T610 processor. It's I think it's a 1.6 gigahertz processor, 4 gig of RAM, a 500 gig hard drive, and a gigabit Ethernet controller built into this. So there you go, soup to nuts. I've shown you what I was able to do with that thing, and let me tell you, I've been working on this project about a week now, and I have just had I forget how fun it is to work on PCs sometimes and to experiment and try things. And I've always loved these. I've always been intrigued by these thin clients, how they could pack so much computing power into a small form factor, and how cheap these things are on eBay. So I had to grab them up. And you've seen me do other. I've used this as a NAS. I've used it as my phone server. I have put these things really through the mill, and they're really power efficient, and they really run really well. And I've just had a whole lot of fun making this set of videos on running Windows 10 on there. Now, the next question I know I'm going to get is, well, Joe, why didn't you run Linux on it? Well, I did run Linux on it, and I had trouble running Linux. Now, granted, I only ran Linux Mint and Linux Peppermint, but I had installation problems using Peppermint. I didn't have the time to overcome them, so I gave up. I did get Linux Mint installed on there, but I had a problem with VLC, would not play some of the MKV files, and I didn't have time to mess with that. I did load all of the multimedia codecs under Linux Mint. I put 19.2 on there, did all the updates, and just could not overcome the VLC problem. And I wasn't sure that the USB 3 drivers that were installed with Linux Mint were proper. So, and then I thought, well, why wouldn't I run Windows 10 on this? You can get Windows 10 for about $20 now. So I did try Linux, but I had nothing but trouble with it and just didn't have time to try and overcome the issues. But Windows 10 installed without any problems, and all the drivers, including the video driver. In fact, it even went out and got the AMD Catalyst control software and offered to automatically configure the card for its best performance, which I let it do, and I saw a small increase in the or decrease in the CPU usage after I did that, and an increase in video performance. So, like I said, you saw the results from using MB, playing both a standard and 1080p. So it's more than capable unit. Web browsing again is the one sticking point, though. So I would definitely rate this configuration a buy. I mean, for $100. Goodness gracious, you can have a small form factor PC that runs Windows 10 and you can browse the web and play videos with. So, as long as you can do that, you should be fine if you can't afford a lot of PC. Plus, it's just fun to play around with this stuff, and get this old equipment to work and put it to new use. There's nothing worse than seeing good equipment go into a landfill. And I apologize if this video's been a little long and rambly, and if you're getting tired of me playing around with used equipment, but I'm having a good time, so hopefully you are too. And we hope you found the video entertaining and informative. As always, please give us a thumbs up down below if you liked it. Subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. Click on that or pound, click that notification bell, whatever it takes. Please leave your comments down below in the comments section. I just caught up in the last few days with the comments, so because I had to take some time to work on business, and I've been playing with my new toys over here. So forgive me if I haven't replied to your comment yet, but I will get around to answering all of them. And keep your comments coming. Keep them pithy. Keep them polite. Keep them positive. And I will respond if I can. So thanks again for coming to see us. And please don't forget, we take PayPal and Patreon if you're so inclined to donate. And please don't forget that we will see you on the other side.